Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video because this is a long-awaited topic. You guys have been asking for us to do a marriage testimony for quite a while now, so I'm super excited to finally let you guys in and let y'all know our testimony. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I just wanted to introduce my husband to you guys.
Hello guys, my name is Gabriel. God bless each and every one of you guys. We're going to be telling you guys about our testimony and you know what God has done for us in our lives, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
So I'm gonna go ahead and ask you the question, when did we meet?
I definitely know our anniversary date, the day I asked you to be my girl.
You asked me to be your girl. But yeah, so we met in 2021. This was right after the pandemic, and just to brief you guys super quickly, like I was spiraling. This was at a point where I had just kind of started like finding out about like the Lord. I mean, I knew God, I knew of God.
Me too.
I didn't know God. Yeah, neither did he. Like we were both kind of, I feel like, starting our walk, and so I was like just now like in the process of stopping drinking, but I still smoked. So well, actually, go ahead and tell them how we met.
Oh yeah, so she was selling herb. You know, I hit her up one day and told her I needed some, and then
So embarrassing.
yeah, we met up from there. We didn't converse or anything like that. It was the second time that I asked her if she wanted to, smoke. We conversated. How would you say our first conversation went?
He would DM me a lot. Like he would send like cute little heart eye emojis. Like for honestly, it was years in the making. But
years ago.
Yeah, like when we finally like met, I remember like after we finally started dating, I went through the DMs with him and I was like, oh wow, you've been kind of like trying to like, I guess, like flirt with me in some way, I guess. And so I was cracking up when we actually started dating. I'm like, you've been trying, but it finally happened. But I will say, like, even though we were like obviously in sin, like we were smoking together, I will say, like, I feel like that conversation we had was like very like, I think that was the thing that made me realize, oh, there's actually like depth to you. Because I remember, like, I don't know, we shared a lot about kind of our, our walks with God, also our like spirituality. And I was in like new age spirituality at this time, so I was kind of like still deceived and I was still confused because like it was the beginning of my walk with God. So I already knew, and I remember I expressed to you in the car as we were smoking, and I was like, I feel like I need to stop smoking. Like I'm at the point where I want to give it up. And you were like, same. So I feel like even though we were kind of still deep in our sin, there was a lot of like desire for us to change. And I feel like that was like, I loved that you were actually in the same mindset as me. Like we wanted to make that shift to like being a better person overall.
Yeah, it was definitely a stimulating conversation, and just your energy was different, from the other females I've interacted. The conversation was, we were talking about things that had depth, and that's what it gets me going.
Yeah.
I don't like to have small talk. I don't have small talk. I talk as little as it is already.
Yeah,
So
that's true, you guys. I was talking to Storm on this date. I felt bad. I even told him, I was like, I'm sorry, have I been speaking like too much? Let me know when you want to talk. But I had to like learn that. I'm more aware now.
Yeah. We're talking for maybe 30-40 minutes. One day, did I ask you to go kayaking after that?
Yeah, so our first official date was when you asked me to go kayaking, because I feel like you can't consider like smoking together a date. I was just gonna sell you it.
That just like it just was a spark that it sparked the interest to want me to get to know her more, and and pursue her further.
Like I remember not wanting to leave. Like I wanted to talk to him all night. So it just felt like, yeah, once I left, I felt like, oh my gosh, I hope that we hang out again. It was one of those.
But then you said you didn't know if I was like annoying, or you was like annoying me, or not, maybe not annoying me, but if you was talking too much.
Yeah, I remember.
Because I don't talk too much, so.
He was a listener.
Yeah.
He was being a good listener.
I guess opposites attract, She's the talker, I'm the listener. So I guess in her head, she's like, oh, dang, am I talking too much? And then I guess
started to get a little in my head, you guys, because I feel like I was starting to feel high, and I remember thinking like, oh, I feel like I'm doing too much right now. Like I'm talking too much. I was like going in, like I don't remember all the stuff I was talking about, but I was pretty much just like filling him in with like, I don't know, this whole like enlightenment journey I was on, and I found God, I went here, I did this, and I just remember I was pretty much giving a whole like testimony within itself. And so I feel like I took up a lot of the time, and I remember again feeling like you're so introverted and you were so like quiet, and I was like too loud and extroverted. So I was like, is he gonna like not want to hit me up again after this? I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, you ended up writing me and you were like, hey, let's go kayaking, or you said, do you want to go kayaking? And here's a little fun fact, you guys. I had already been in my like praying time with God, because I was you know, I was in my walk, you guys. Like, I just started. But I remember specifically, like, this was a specific prayer that I said to God. I said, God, I'm tired of just smoking with guys. And it wasn't towards you, it was just towards in general. Like, every guy would just be like, hey, do you want to smoke together? And I just felt like, ask me out on a date, a proper date. But then again, that's kind of like the energy that I was, like, I guess, giving out at the time. Like, that's all I would probably want to do. But I was changing, like, my mentality, my desires were changing. And I remember thinking, God, I want someone to just ask me out on a formal date. Like, I feel like I want to do something spontaneous. And the one thing in my head that I was literally like praying that someone would ask me to do is to go kayaking, because I'm a very like nature lover. And I remember like thinking, man, I want to go kayaking. Like, it's been something that I want to, you know, I want to check off my bucket list.
And to be honest, I don't know where that came from, because I haven't been kayaking, I don't know when.
That's
like,
the Lord, y'all.
I literally, maybe when I was maybe in like a field trip, or like, a field trip. Like, and we went kayaking then as a little kid, but other than that,
and we didn't talk about that, did we, on our... Yeah, like, I don't remember even bringing that up.
That came from left field.
So I know that's the Lord.
But I've always been an adventurer at heart, but I guess my trauma and things that I've been through kept me like inside, you know?
Right.
And I guess that's where the enemy wanted me, because it just kept me inside and kept me in my head, and, you know, I really wasn't doing the things that filled my spirit.
Yeah. And I think that kayaking date really solidified that there was this like supernatural chemistry, because I just remember being on that date and just feeling like something supernatural. Like, it was just an undeniable connection, I think we both felt. And like, even when we left the date, I remember thinking like, wow, like, this feels like different than all of the other people I've ever like dated. Like, this feels so different, and I don't know how to explain it, but I truly felt like God like confirmed to me from that one like first date. Like, I remember the Lord kind of just putting in my spirit, like, this is the one for you. Like, this was the first time that I actually felt my spirit like, wait, something felt different, like in a good way, you know? Like, everything just went super good, like the chemistry, just the date in general. And yeah, it was super cute. So we went kayaking, and he lost his hat. You have to talk about that.
It's funny, yeah, absolutely. I'll tell her about that. So, all right, so I'm bald, right? And I really don't. Right? It doesn't really bother me, right? You know, I mean, it's very minimal. It's very minimal, right? Because
he's always had a lot of hair, so it was probably a little bit.
It wasn't that I was embarrassed or I wasn't self-confident, so to say, but I didn't know if she would feel a way about it. You know, I guess
you thought I was like superficial.
I was so I wanted her to, you know, to like me and things of that nature. So I guess it was just a little thing of like, dang, you know, like, I don't know how
Does
she's
she like bald guys?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh man, like, it was just, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I always wear hats, right? And on the kayak, you know, you're going through the wild. There's trees and things of that nature.
It's like low branches.
And I'm kayaking, and then I guess we drifted off to the right, and then it just knocked off my hat.
This was God literally like, all right, you're gonna reveal you have a bald head to her right now.
And she's in front of me, so she doesn't see it yet. And it's in the water, and I'm trying to get it and put it back on before she sees me, but then it's too gone. It's like it's
he literally almost had us like tip over because of how like he was reaching for he was reaching for that hat with his whole life, and we almost tipped over. And I remember thinking, dang, like, and by the way, we also crashed into that branch, like, This was like, he didn't care about crashing, he just cared about concealing that.
Well, I think that was another time I was trying to show off, like, I was like showing my power. I was going real fast,
and I'm in the front,
and then we lost control.
So I ended up going right into the head first into the tree.
It came from trying to show off to being, you know, embarrassed and not knowing.
God really humbled us on that date, though.
Not knowing if she's gonna want to go on a second date. So.
No, but I honestly think that was like it brought some humor to it. Like, it really lightened the mood, I think, once that happened. But also I picked up on the fact that like that was something that like he was a little bit insecure about, or not that you were insecure, but I know that was something that you were like, oh, like, you know, scared about, in a sense that like, was I still gonna like you, because, you know, like,
I guess you could call it a bit of insecurity, because it's like, you know, like I should it's part of me. So you should be able to like me for who I am, and if not, then you're
But
not the
also,
one
maybe
for
you
me.
were just dealing with women who like were more superficial in looks, or no, or is that just more so like how you would assume?
Um,
I guess a lot of girls are truly like more superficial in that sense.
nah, I didn't really care.
Yeah.
But I only cared about what you thought.
Yeah.
So that's that. Like I didn't care with the other woman because it wasn't going past. It wasn't really going anywhere. So I didn't. You either like me or like me. It is what it is. It isn't. I don't really care anyway. So it was different. That showed me it was a difference. With you because it was a difference.
Yeah.
Because I was a little bit worried about it, but
Mm-hmm.
it happened.
But long story short, I feel like God will, he will bring everything up to the surface, especially because that was something that, maybe he was holding back from, but maybe it was God's way of saying, like, haha, you're actually, this doesn't matter. This is something it's not going to make or break this relationship.
Get it out there from the beginning.
Yeah, like, don't, like, wait until it's too late to reveal anything. But I also had, like, things that I was a little bit self-conscious of. Like, for number one, like, I remember when I came to you and I was, like, nervous to, like, take off my socks. I have big feet for a girl, so I remember feeling so self-conscious to, like, show him my feet.
That's the second date. The second day is where I saw your feet.
Oh, because we went to the springs.
Yeah, to the
And
springs.
I remember I said, I'm cute from my ankle up. And I remember I said, my feet, let's not look down there. We went to the nature springs. That was our second official date. Mm-hmm. So then after that, you invited me to... Wait, are you sure? Didn't we go to Bahamas Breeze for second? And then the third was the springs.
Probably.
So, okay, that was actually our third date. So on our second day, we went to Bahama Breeze. We went out to eat, and then on the third date, you asked me for.
Hold on, let's not fast forward to certain things. There's one thing I want to say.
Oh, okay. How did you feel after the date?
Oh yeah.
Let me ask.
You already know where I was going with this. So I just remember after the date, I went to the gym, and I just had this. My energy was at an all-time high. After that date. And I just remember like running super fast. I remember really running longer too. I was running long. My endurance was at an all-time high. It has never been that that high. My stamina.
Yeah.
It was just a feeling that I never felt before. And it was amazing.
I can attest that after the date, I also felt like it wasn't even that we were like physically high. It felt like a supernatural high. Obviously when everybody is in this honeymoon phase of love, it's like new, it's exciting, your dopamine is at an all-time high. So I feel like it was a mix of that, but also the Lord brought like joy to both of us, because again, like once you find the person that God has for you, I feel like naturally you're going to feel this like sense of peace. And so I feel like leaving that date, I felt so at peace. Like I remember I didn't even want the date to end. And normally I don't feel like that. Normally I'm like, okay, like I'm ready to go home, whatever. But like this day was like different. It was like, wow, like I really, really enjoy like hanging out with him. And so, yeah, I definitely can attest. It felt like a supernatural like high. And just to be so transparent, you guys, this was the last day I ever smoked. I am almost 99% positive that after this date, I said, I'm like so high off of this like new love that like I don't even need to smoke anymore. Like that's how good I felt. And I mean, I had like slipped up a couple other times after that, but I'm almost positive that was like the day that I really said like, all right, I'm done smoking.
Literally was both on the beginning of our walk, and like a lot of things were just shutting off of us, the things from our past and the bad habits that we had, and
right.
We ultimately was just growing together, from the beginning of our walks.
So yeah, we had a couple more dates after that, and there was just so many different confirmations as well that I think we were both receiving from the Lord. Like I had different confirmations that I feel like are more personal, but I knew that the Lord kept revealing to me like, this is the person you're gonna marry. This is the kingdom man that I have for you. And a part of me questioned it. There was a lot of doubts that started to pop in because we are such opposites, and I wondered how would that work if we're just completely opposites, like in terms of I'm extroverted, he's introverted. I don't know, we just have a lot of differences. And so I remember thinking like, okay, God, like how could this even work? But then I guess the world tries to tell you, oh, like you need to find someone who's just like you. But I really feel like that's actually not like valid, because
it isn't one size fits all, like who God has for you, like what God's plans for you are better than you can ever imagine, and better than your plans.
Yeah.
So we would think like prior to getting with each other, we would think, you know, we had this perfect person, I guess, you know, painted in our minds, but
Yeah.
you'll never find your person if you're looking for a perfect person.
Yeah, and also
It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, like he was not necessarily someone that I normally went for, and that's probably a good thing because all of the people I went for, obviously, like that didn't work out for a reason. But I remember thinking like he is definitely nothing like the guys I've ever dated. Like he actually seems like a good guy, and I used to go for like bad boys. I used to go for like, you know, like just more toxic type of masculinity guys. I really do feel like we are opposites, but I think that's a good thing because there's things that I can help like him view in a certain perspective, but also vice versa because there's so many things that you've helped me kind of see in a different light. And so
Absolutely.
I feel like if you're the same person, you're not going to really be able to grow the way that, you know, two people who are a little bit different can help each other grow. Because I feel like two people the same, you're just going to kind of stay the same. But like when you have two different people with two different perspectives, you guys can, you know, like shed new light and help each other get out of their comfort zones and grow. So I feel like that's what happened with us is we were kind of challenging each other, but in a good way.
Well, absolutely.
Because opposites attract.
Yeah, she made me more outgoing, a little bit more outgoing, you know, and being adventurous. You know, also like not over analyzing things because I tend to over analyze things and I'm analytical, and vice versa. I guess she's a little bit too much on the carefree side, so I guess we both, you know, level each other out and balance each other out.
Yeah.
Because it's, hey, you know, like you can't be too carefree,
Right.
and you can't be overthinking all the time. You know, you got to be a little bit carefree and just let things flow.
Of both.
Yeah.
That's true. I've definitely helped him kind of be a little bit more spontaneous and outgoing, and he's helped me kind of like just balance it out. So yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit about how we met. From there, I feel like we just started to, you know, continue dating, continue getting to know each other, and everything just kept aligning. Like I feel like things just started to happen very quickly. Like I feel like from month 1, I'm pretty sure we were already talking about marriage, but I don't think we were obviously like thinking it was gonna happen like super quick. But in my head, I was like, I'm ready to get married right now. We did start going through a little bit of conflict. So I will say there was a couple instances where I was still very unhealed. There was things that I still had to work on. Vice versa, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there was a lot of things that I did wrong in the beginning, like the way that I sometimes spoke to him. Like a lot of my past ways were coming to fruition in this relationship. I was always like verbally kind of abusive in a sense. But that's the thing, like my past relationships were always like they would speak to me verbally abusive. So like I feel like that was my tendency, like my I was just like defending myself.
Was the first time when you were driving fast?
Oh yeah, so I was driving fast in my car, and he was kind of just like, oh, like slow down, you know, I'm over here trying to be Need for Speed, show off, like I have a V8 Mustang, so like I wanted to show off like how fast the car goes. And I remember him telling me like, oh, you don't gotta drive that fast, you know. This is our first like actual argument, and I remember thinking, what did I say to you?
You said
I know how to drive, right?
Something.
I'm pretty sure I was like, I know how to drive.
She was like, this isn't a V8 for no reason. I'm not gonna be driving slow in a V8. You know, yeah, like you was like, oh, like don't tell me how to drive, like you know, like you said something slick, and like it just bothered me, and I was like, I remember I was like, oh, like I can't do this.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, after like, one little disagreement, you're gonna walk away.
Yeah, but that's my, you know, that's my trauma and things that I had to work on. Like neither of us was really right in that sense. Like even though, you know, you started it, but I shouldn't have like been able to been thinking of just throwing it all away just because, you know.
No, that's true. But yeah, I remember just like
and
that's
also
normally...
the age difference as well. You know, I had to take that into account. You know, like we're 7 years apart, so it's like, you know, a lot of things I gotta give you kind of like leeway because it's like
I was younger.
Yeah.
Well, I am younger.
Like a lot of things I've already learned. Like, you know, I was there. I was kind of there at one time, so it's like I can't, you know. Like, so it's like I gotta give you grace because it's like, you know, like you're much younger.
I felt really bad. Like I remember, well, actually I didn't really feel bad actually. My friend, I was like asking for her advice. I'm like, was I wrong? Like I don't see how I was wrong, you know. Like that's just how in that.
You asked her in the car?
yeah, once we dropped you off, I'm like, that's
Nah,
crazy.
you didn't have no time to do that. I'm pretty sure you did it by yourself. Like, cause I got real quiet. Like, I didn't say nothing after that. Like, I didn't like I got real quiet. My facial expression was different. Like, my energy
You were
totally
like, this is the
changed. Cause
last
I
time
was
I'm
like,
hanging
yeah,
out with this girl.
yeah, I can't deal with that. And there's gonna be things that you got like relationships are gonna go through, and it's like you ready kind of ready to throw it away, all away. But if you truly love that person, and as long as it isn't nothing extreme,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, there's some things you should just walk away from. But
Yeah.
this wasn't one of those things.
Yeah.
But ultimately you ended up like you got out the car and you apologized.
Yeah. Before you left, I didn't want us to leave on bad terms, and I remember telling you, I was like, I'm sorry, like, that's just something that, like, I've always driven fast. I've always thought it was fun to be like, like, just, I guess I was young again, like, and I learned that, like, it's important to, like, not risk your your safety and also other safety around you, no matter what kind of car you have. But again, at this time, I was still very immature, and I was still, like, learning things. So but I remember, yeah, I did apologize because I didn't want us to leave on like bad terms, and I felt like we had something so good that I was like, oh no, I hope I didn't just ruin it because of this. But I also had really bad issues with submission, and I feel like that's something still God is working with me on, because I've always had this like like dominant personality. I've always been super alpha female, and so, like, it was different. It's different for me to be in a relationship where I'm like, I'm supposed to just trust in a man's like authority, and I think it's hard for me, but it's still something that I'm working on. But I think that was like the first time where that something like that like tested me in that sense, where I was like, okay, I'm not used to, like, having to kind of, like, I guess, apologize. Like, I had, like, it was just different for me. So the fact that I even put my pride to the side and apologized, I feel like that's growth. That's the Lord. The Lord's like, don't ruin
and you helped
this.
me out a lot with forgiveness. Like forgiving, like don't just harbor on the past. Like,
The
you
Bible
showed me
says,
that.
"Do not dwell on the past." I always quote that to him. I'm like, when he's like mad at me, I'm like, don't
she
dwell on the past.
apologized, and I ultimately had to just forgive her. Like, and yeah, that was the beginning of like us, like,
starting to go through a little bit of downs, because we were on like a high. Like, I'm telling you, like, our honeymoon phase of our relationship was like really high. So when we finally started to kind of have certain disagreements and starting to kind of bash heads a little bit, that's when it started to be like, oh man, like, we were like, all right, maybe this is not a match, because I think that was our first like time feeling like tested in the relationship, because the beginning was just like heaven. It was just like there was no disagreements, but we didn't really get down to the nitty-gritty yet. So of course, any relationship in the beginning is going to be like this, this like this undeniable like feelings of like joy and peace. But the real test of a relationship comes down to when you guys have a disagreement, or have some sort of like argument.
That's when the test is the love true or not.
Yeah, it proves the genuineness of your love. Like, are you willing to, because there are going to be fights in relationships. Like obviously some people like wouldn't call it a fight. Some people would just say, oh, disagreements. And but I would say that there are going to be things that you guys are not always going to be on the same page about, but how you handle it is like key. Because like, again, love is not, like, I feel like love is not necessarily a feeling. I feel like it's a choice. And so, like, if you choose to continue to love this person, you have to choose to like get through these things together, and you're choosing not to walk away.
I would say it's both. It's a choice based off a feeling.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that you can feel love, but you also have to choose to continue to love.
Yeah.
Because anybody can just walk away despite what they feel or whatever. But yeah, I definitely think it is humble, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to understand that person is growing just as you are growing.
Yeah.
You're gonna have faults just well as your partner is gonna have faults. And you just gotta work through it. Understand that work with each other rather than against each other.
Yeah.
Because fire, you're never gonna get anywhere. It's ultimately just gonna stay. You're never gonna really grow.
Yeah, but I definitely think there was a lot of roadblocks in this time of like it was probably like a couple months in of us dating. That's when it started to get a little tough. I know I have a really bad, like, at the time I had a really bad potty mouth, you guys, and I had a toxic mouth. Like, my mouth would honestly get me in trouble. So there was a lot of things that I would say sometimes that, like, I know words are very much can be like, it can bring life or it can bring curses. And I feel like a lot of the things that I chose to say, I didn't really think before I spoke. And so like the Lord kind of has been helping me with the verse, be slow to speak, quick to listen, and slow to get angry. And I at that time was very quick to speak, quick to not listen, and like quick to get angry. So I feel like that's something that the Lord definitely did like a pretty big transformation in me.
And that ultimately like helped me out. That was good from the bad.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever the devil meant for evil, God will turn it into good.
Yeah.
So although she was, you know, saying things that were hurtful, I had to ultimately, you know, work on myself because I can't let that ultimately get to me. So she was working on her as well as me, because my past trauma, I would just like lock up, or like, you know, like ended up just being like forget it, or you know, like just close in. And
guys, our story got interrupted because we had to charge the camera, so we're just gonna pick up where pretty much we left off. To make a long story short, I feel like we just had so many different like differences, and just we couldn't get on the same page. So I feel like, you know, it was only right that it wasn't working at the time. So we ended up breaking up. I can't remember what, pretty much, yeah, we broke up. And this was pretty much like the longest we ever broke up, because I'm pretty sure this was like what, 3 months that we were not together.
Months.
And during that 3 months, I will say, like, I was extremely depressed. And I remember just like feeling like, man, like maybe all of these confirmations that I felt, like this was the one. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I heard God incorrectly. But the Lord kept confirming to me, like, no, like I said what I said. And so I was, you know, starting to doubt and lose faith about ever us coming back together. But what the Lord really like put in my heart was that God needed to work on us separately. Like I feel like there was a lot of work, and again, like unhealed trauma and things like that we both had to heal from, before we can come back together. And so the Lord kind of actually gave me this promise that like we were gonna be restored, and that we were gonna still get married, and we were still going to, you know, have this like beautiful marriage. And I started to doubt the longer that we went without talking. I just remember like I don't think that I heard God correctly, and I let the enemy start to come in with doubts and things like that. So I just remember like kind of losing faith a little bit. And so it wasn't until I took a 3-day fast, and I remember feeling like, okay, God, I'm going to surrender this marriage up to you. If this gets back restored, if this doesn't get restored, like, God, it's all in your hands. And it wasn't until the 3rd day of that fast where I finally felt peace with whether the outcome was us getting back together or whether it wasn't. And I feel like it wasn't until I fully was okay with it being like not, like, I was finally okay with the fact that it might not come back together. And it's like at that moment, it was day 3 of my fast. I didn't drink, I didn't eat anything for 3 days. I was doing an Esther fast. The whole intention of the fast was simply for like breakthrough in, you know, marriage restoration and things like that. So I finally got to day 3, and I was like, I don't know, God, it's up to you. At this point, I surrender it up to you. And I finally feel like I was, you know, not obsessing over the fact with us getting back together. Like that wasn't, you know, the obsession anymore. It was like I was almost idolizing the marriage and the relationship, and it was just distracting me. Like that's all I could think about. And so when I finally got to the place of like, God, if you don't want this to happen, I'm okay with that as well. Like I finally got to that place. And it wasn't until that last day of the fast, literally day 3 of the fast, just finished the fast, he ended up texting me. So fasting works, you guys. Fasting is so real. And I feel like, you know, there was just so much that I was going through. But you can talk about a little bit from your perspective on what you went through when we were not together, and how you knew I was the one.
Yeah, I'll just I remember like fighting, you know, fighting myself, like to even text you. I was going back and forth with my sense. Nah, I shouldn't text it. Oh yeah, I should. You know, I was just going back and forth with myself, fighting myself. You know, fighting my flesh on to whether to, you know, text you or not.
It was 3 months, you guys. So I had no hopes, I think, left.
Yeah, definitely was 3 months. But you know, you never left my mind. You know, I guess I just felt like I had to, you know, like had to get over you, but it just wasn't happening. So
yeah,
you know,
I think we both tried too. Which that's probably a story for another day. We both tried to move on.
Yeah. Comment if you guys would like part 2. We definitely gonna get deeper in our separation.
What happened during our separation? I didn't do anything crazy, but I mean, I definitely was trying to move on and distract myself with other people. So, you know.
So comment part 2 if you would like to see.
Do you want to hear the tea on our separation? That's a whole another video. But continue. How'd you know that, you know, you wanted to reach out again, and you just, what was the confirmation for you? Like, no, like I still feel like this is what God has for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that for part 2.
What do you mean? You gotta at least say your testimony. Oh, the confirmation stuff. You want to leave that for the next video?
Yeah, because I got a little story about that.
Well, so yeah, so long story short, he ended up reaching back out, and I think he said, "Can we talk?" or something along those lines. When we finally had that conversation, meeting in person, I remember feeling so anxious, so nervous. But like every time we just seen each other, even after how long it was, it just like felt like like my peace was with him. So yeah, and so ever since then, we've obviously been married. We're 2 years into the marriage. We got married not long after that restoration. We got married a few months after that, right?
No, not too long after that did I propose to you.
Oh yeah. You're right. You proposed to me right after that. Mm-hmm. It took us what, another 6 months to get married, or was it like a year?
No, we separated again after that.
There's too many to count, you guys.
But it wasn't. Was it? I think it was a small separation again.
And then by the time we got back together after the engagement, we went straight into marriage. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, after that, it wasn't.
This was the last time we were like, we're going to the courthouse now so that we can't run away anymore.
Yeah, they was like, what's the rush? Like that's one thing about relationships in your life and your relationship with the Lord. No one's gonna truly ever understand why you're doing things and why you're doing the things the way you're doing them. If God puts it in your heart, it doesn't matter what. If someone else doesn't understand, oh, why are you guys in a rush? It wasn't about that. It was about making that commitment.
I will say that people probably thought that we shouldn't have gotten married just because of how many times we broke up, but I think people have this false expectation of what marriage or like a relationship even is. I think no relationship is going to have like this perfect, ride to the finish line.
Just no one is ever perfect, do what God puts in your heart, like if you feel like truly that's the person, ask God for confirmation. But there's always gonna be outside noise, there's always gonna be naysayers, there's always gonna be someone, but no one has a better plan for your life than God, you know?
I think we knew deep down that like we just wanted to get married because there was a lot of spiritual warfare against like us coming together and being unified. And I think that was again, like the devil wants to divide. He wants to delay what God has for you. And I think because there was such a high it was God's plan for us to be married ultimately. I think the devil was trying to do anything and everything to keep that from happening, and it almost worked, but God had the final say. And so once we finally got married, I feel like it really like solidified. I think we both were in this forever. And like, I don't know, now divorce is not an option in my heart, and nor is it in you. So even when we do go through like little disagreements or whatever, I feel like we know, okay, well, we're gonna find a solution. Like, we've also learned how to really forgive, because if you get in a marriage and you think that this person's never gonna let you down, like, you're gonna be very mistaken. So I think that like forgiveness,
it's gonna be
communication, that's key in a marriage, and you have to be like willing.
You're gonna turn and put your back, again to each other in bed, and stuff like that. There's gonna be it's never gonna be perfect. Just like your walk with God is never gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna slip up, you're gonna make mistakes, and it's all about asking God for forgiveness, and doing your best.
Yeah, to continue to show up and grow with that person. And we have to acknowledge that there are things that we still have to grow in. Like, there's areas that I might still have to work on, there's areas he still has to work on, but ultimately we're choosing every single day to work on it together and to get through it together. And so we've already grown so much by being together. And obviously, like, we both quit smoking together, we both quit drinking together, we both literally like stopped living for the world, and we're now living for God, and we're striving to become the woman and man that God has created us to be. So I know that the more that we obviously the more years that we have under our belt in marriage, the more that we're gonna be able to kind of successfully navigate things more smoothly, more, because we're still learning, we're still growing. We've only been married 2 years, so we still got a lot of things to learn about each other. But I would say that where we are today is definitely a whole 360 to where we were when we first started dating. So God has definitely done wonders in this, and I see God really moving in both of our lives in such a beautiful way. So no wonder the warfare was so heavy. So I just want to say, don't get discouraged if you are with someone that you're not it's not your ideal like maybe story, because we don't have the perfect story. Like our love story is literally like it's pretty chaotic, and I feel like there's too many people that they reflect or not reflect, but they portray that it's like this perfect relationship.
I don't believe no one has a perfect story.
I just think people are not transparent.
It's kind of like a YouTube video, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
You could edit out the the flaws and
social media
things
only
of that
shows
nature.
you what you want to see. They're not going to show you the the downsides. But I think that what we wanted to do with this testimony was just be super transparent. Like, we don't have your perfect fairy tale like relationship, and there is no such thing as one, except for Jesus in us,
Forget about it.
But yeah, I think it's important to be transparent and recognize that, like, don't, of course, don't accept anything that's, like, just like, like if it's physically abusive, or it's just, in your heart, like, this is not from God. If it takes you away from the spirit of God, if it, causes you to stumble and continuously, then obviously, like, we should use our discernment in that. But I think we have to give each other grace, and that's what love is. Love is unconditionally loving that person despite them not maybe being perfect.
But if it's like, putting your pride to the side and actually, like acknowledging your faults, like that's where growth comes in.
Right.
Acknowledgement. If you just
want awareness, for sure.
If you just want to blame your partner and not acknowledge your faults, then you'll always be at square one.
Right.
No matter who you're with, it's gonna carry on. You gotta acknowledge within yourself the wrongs that you've done, and also help your partner, in the wrongs that they've done as well, and the things that you can strengthen them in, and vice versa, they can strengthen you in. And as I know our relationship has done,
Yeah. Well, I will say that, it was definitely worth going through all of those, like, those trials and things like that, because I feel like we now have so much more wisdom to, help other people, maybe, like, not avoid these certain situations, but there's a lot of things that could have been avoided had we known what we know today. So I think that maybe, obviously, God works it all out for his good.
It was all part of the, all part of the journey.
And now we can help other couples that are kind of going through those same things, similar things, that can relate. So I'm hoping that this story will hopefully, bring you some more encouragement and just maybe help you out a little bit on your journey. Just know that no relationship is a one-size-fits-all, and it's not gonna be perfect, but if you truly love the person, you'll figure it out. It'll
all be worth it.
Yeah, but most importantly, last tip of advice: make sure God is in the marriage. Like, center God in your relationship. Center him in everything. It's not a 2-person relationship. It's actually a 3-person relationship. It's us two connected to Jesus. Let Jesus be like the head of your marriage, and let Jesus lead him, the man, as the man leads the wife. And that is God's order. So I really do pray that this video helps you guys, and stay tuned for part 2, because we have so much more to talk about. We have to get into kind of what really happened through the separation season, and also where
anything, any questions, any comments, anything you guys, any topics you guys would like us to discuss, let us know. We're more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Yeah, definitely leave your suggestions for future videos that you want to see us talk about down below. And yeah, we love you guys. Thank you for watching this video, and yeah, we'll see you for the next one. Bye, guys.
God bless.